Hey San Diego, welcome back to the Apartment Geek Weekly. I'm your official host, Chris Robinson. Hope everybody out there is doing great, staying healthy and safe. This week we're going to talk about three simple, uh, without spending a ridiculous amount of money, ways to add value to your apartment building. I thought this would be appropriate and relevant now in a time where there's more liability and frankly more risk to landlords due to the regulation in California, rent control, some of the different things that we're battling, vacancy control, Prop 15, split roll taxes. So it's important for landlords and investors as we go into a new kind of time with these issues to really focus on what's going to add value to the real estate that we own. Should we want to sell the asset? Should we want to refinance it? Naturally, we want to increase the value of these properties, right? That's kind of common sense. So the number one on my list of three is increase the NOI. We've talked about that in the last couple episodes. So we really want to look at what we're paying for management, trash removal, insurance. We talked about. I had a number of investors contact me for my referral on property insurance for commercial property, and I think that's going to frankly save people a lot of money. So NOI, really kind of focusing on that, because if you refinance or sell, a buyer or lender is going to really analyze and look at the NOI very closely. So expenses, lowering them, common sense. Rents, obviously we want to raise rents. It's hard to do that now with COVID. I don't really know what my feeling is about rent raises at this point in time. We'll see kind of how things go in the next 2-3 months, but I personally have a hard time raising a rent on anybody right now. Not that they can't pay it, because most of our residents are making money and working, but it just something about it doesn't feel right personally, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Number two, and I really like this one. This is thinking outside the box and getting creative about adding an ADU or ADUs to your property, or additional units that are permitted. Now, I've got an asset, a 9-unit that I own in Vista, and through the consultant that I hired in talks with the city, we can add 2 ADUs onto an existing 9-unit property. At some point, that will be 11 units when it's done. I've looked into if I have an 11 unit now after the construction, what does that do to value from a lender's perspective or a buyer's perspective if I end up selling this property at some point? And it looks as though this is kind of new territory for San Diego, but it's been done more in the Bay Area because they've been dealing with more regulation for a longer amount of time. It looks as though those extra 2 units, if they're permitted through the municipality and they're legit and legal, which these would be, this is all through permits and approved by the city, the lender, the appraiser, probably a buyer will accept that as 2 additional units. If you look at what that does to the value of the real estate, based on what the NOI is or what your cash flow is, it makes all the sense in the world to add units to existing property that you own. So look at what you have. If there's garages in the back of the property with nothing on top, there's a likelihood that you can add a unit or 2 up there. Hire a consultant, go to the city. The city's much more open to do these things now than they ever have been. We've talked about that before, whether it's called an ADU or an actual permitted unit. It looks like it's both going to be a win-win from the landlord's perspective as far as what that does to the value of the real estate, which is just raise it. So think about that. We've got a lot of negative stuff coming. So how can we offset that with creativity and thinking outside the box, and maybe spending a little bit of money and adding, if you can, 1 or 2 units to your existing stuff, to each property. Curb appeal. I really like this one. So, again, as we go into, maybe a little bit tougher time for this business, generally speaking, curb appeal is going to differentiate your building from all the ugly ones that were built in the 50s and 60s and 70s on your street, because there's a lot of ugly, just dated, dilapidated stuff out there. So for not a lot of money, you can go out there, and my rule whenever I purchase a new property is I go in and do a completely new look. And it doesn't cost a lot of money if you have the right contacts. Landscaping remodel, you can get rid of old 80s juniper trees and all kinds of ugly hedges and stuff, and you can update those with tropical palm trees. DG was always really clean. A drip irrigation system is gonna keep those things watered without all of the traditional water, so you may save on some water on updating landscaping. It's gonna give the property a better look if you appraise the asset, if you refinance it, if you have to sell it, if vacancy goes way up or rents go down in San Diego for some reason, who knows what's gonna happen, then you're standing out from the competition through making your building look better than the other ones on your block. So curb appeal, landscaping, and then the other big one that's not very expensive is going to be updating the exterior paint or stucco, or if there's dry rotted wood all over the place, you can go in there and replace that stuff and clean it up, or put a lot of Bondo on there and just kind of clean and freshen the property up. Change the paint color, or I should say update the paint color to something that's a little bit more current. So it's an emotional component to that. You're differentiating yourself from the competition. If you're in any business, I don't care if you're selling oranges on the side of the street in a fruit stand, you want to stand out, you want to be different, and paint and landscaping and maybe some light fixtures. One of my big things I do on properties is I put new address letters or numbers on the building. So unit numbers on the doors or on the side of the doors. And then, 123 Main Street or whatever it is on the front of the building. Pop that stuff with some new, modern, crisp address numbers. And if you're gonna paint the building, there's no better time to do that when you're painting the asset, because you're gonna have a fresh coat. You can put new numbers on there, and you can clean up anything that's been there for 50 years or whatever it may be. A lot of these apartment buildings are so original and they work, and that's why a lot of owners don't really do anything with them. But now is a good time to think about that. Think about how you can kind of clean the building up. So 3 ways to add value that are pretty straightforward. The ADU thing is going to be complex, but if you hire a consultant or that's somebody who does architecture, design, and then actually goes and communicates with the city on your behalf, you're going to spend some money on that, probably $15,000 give or take, maybe 10 to 15. It's going to be well worth it, because then if you go spend $250 a square foot and you build a 500 square foot 1-bedroom, you're going to go rent that out for now $1,400 a month. Do the math, and the return on money invested is like 17, 18, 19, 20%. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Focus on the NOI, lowering expenses, increasing rents at some point, the rents, but now you can look at expenses. We talked about that, I think 2 episodes ago. And then curb appeal, making your property stand out, cleaning it up, spend a little bit of money. None of this stuff is too expensive. And that's what I got this week. So thanks for tuning in. Let me know if I can help. Let me know how you like these. Subscribe, do all the fancy YouTube stuff, and that supports me and helps us kind of grow as a brand. So thank you, and talk to you later. Bye.